The time is 6 o'clock on Oluyole 98.5 FM, Ibadan.
The news.
Good evening. This is Idowu Shekoni, and reading with me is
Adetuke Oluyole.
We're bringing you Newscope, our daily news program of in-depth reports, interviews, and commentaries. First, the highlights. Vice President Shettima highlights Nigeria's enormous economic potential.
Oyo government to take delivery of 2 surveillance aircraft by month end.
Court of Appeal restores INEC's timetable for 2027 elections.
Protests in Ukraine cities against Zelensky's removal of defense minister.
Now the news in full. Vice President Kashim Shettima has said Nigeria has no reason to remain poor, stressing that the country's abundant natural resources and economic potential could make it one of the richest nations in the world if properly harnessed. VP Shettima stated this on Wednesday while delivering the keynote address at the Agric Development and Investment Summit in Abuja. The vice president pointed to Indonesia's achievements in the oil palm sector as an example of how strategic investment in agriculture can generate Nigeria's earnings from crude oil exports. He also highlighted the economic opportunities in the Niger Delta, describing the region as the world's third largest delta with enormous potential for mariculture, including fish farming and the cultivation of species such as salmon, tuna, and lobsters. The vice president maintained that Nigeria's agricultural and marine resources, if effectively developed, could transform the nation's economy and improve the livelihoods of its citizens.
The Oyo state government said the twos explained that the assembly of their components by the Chinese manufacturers took longer than anticipated. He recalled that the government had earlier announced the arrival of the aircraft at the Nigerian Air Force hangar in Ikeja, Lagos State, where they were undergoing assembly before becoming operational. According to him, Governor Seyi Makinde told the council that he had wished the aircraft were operational during the rescue operation following the recent school abduction. The commissioner said the Executive Council also approved an interest-free intervention loan of 3 billion naira for an indigenous cassava processing factory to boost production, create jobs, and benefit more than 25,000 farmers.
Operatives of the Oluyole State Police Command's anti-kidnapping squad have arrested 2 suspected kidnappers and rescued a 5-year-old girl, Miss Fikayo Bimiga, unhurt in a successful intelligence-led operation. The command's public relations officer, Oluyole Olayinka, while parading the suspects at the Ibadan headquarters of the command, disclosed that the suspect demanded a sum of 10 million Rofi. Has the details.
Briefing newsmen on behalf of the Commissioner of Police in Oyo State, CP Abimbola Olubenga, the command spokesman, DSP Oluyole Olayinka, said the breakthrough followed an intensive investigation launched after 5-year-old Fikayo Bimiga was abducted from our family's residence at Iyanofa, Ibadan on the 3rd of July 2026. At night, abducted the child while members of the family were asleep and demanded a ransom of 10 million naira for her release. He stated that operatives of the anti-kidnapping squad painstakingly deployed intelligence gathering, technology, and other investigative tools to identify the suspects and track their movements. DSP Olayinka stressed that the operation culminated in the arrest of the principal suspect, identified as Adegboye Sunday, aged 37, and an accomplice, Adegboye Elijah, aged 25, at their hideout in the Mojoyin-Molade area of Iwo Road, Ibadan, on the 11th of July.
We're able to identify the adult, rescue the young girl, and arrest the 2 individuals here. The 2 individuals have confessed to their involvement in the crime, and also the collection of the ransom, sum of 1 million naira that was collected at Ikire in Osun State. One of the suspects is still at large. The investigation, of course, is still ongoing to arrest him and the rest of his syndicate.
Speaking with journalists, One of the suspects, Adegboye Sunday, confessed to participating in the abduction, alleging that the operation was masterminded by a suspect identified simply as Alaba Igbira, who is currently at large. He also admitted that they had earlier robbed a nearby residence and stole a mobile phone, later used to contact the victim's family and demand ransom.
Came in about 200,000 naira. Nibibe, 200,000 naira. Bo, only when 500,000 naira phone. Munia, the Abomolo Funga no, Labara Queen, Nibi Molide or Mama. Later, Yomia Sara, 1 million to women at 2 other women, Munti, Filet, Picosi, woman, a woman, money, 1 million anti Otiba. A 1 quarter 500,000 Ogba.
The mother of the rescued child confirmed that although the kidnappers initially demanded 10 million naira, the family paid 1 million naira after the suspects promised to release the girl. She, however, said the kidnappers failed to fulfill the promise and kept the child until police operatives rescued her 8 days later, adding that the girl child was not physically harmed during captivity.
Èyí sì ń disturb mi tó fi di aago 7 lọ́jọ́ yẹn pé kí n máa gbowó bọ̀ fún Oníkiri lẹ́yìn tán ti gba 1 million already tẹ́lẹ̀ tán ní àwọn máa release ọmọ lọ́jọ́ kejì bó ṣe wá di bí bóyá after 10 mo ṣe rí kọ́ officer yẹn ní pé àwọn ti rí ẹnìkan mọ̀ pé bọ̀ àwọn wà ní Woro Dubai kò tó 20 minutes gbà yẹn tán pè mí pé àwọn ti rí Fikayo.
The Commissioner of Police in Oyo State, CP Abimbola Olugbenga, through the command spokesperson, commended the professionalism, resilience and dedication of the anti-kidnapping squad for the successful operation. He reassured residents of the command's commitment to tackling kidnapping and other violent crimes through intelligence-led policing and collaboration with members of the public. Adebayo Abdurrafi, BCOS News.
The Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, has filed a 15 billion defamation suit against Prince Adini Adeyemi Matthew at the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, over allegations that he demanded a 48% kickback from the 27.3 billion naira takeoff grant approved for a federal agency. In the suit, Gbajabiamila is seeking 10 billion naira in general damages, 5 billion naira in aggravated damages, and 200 million naira as the cost of the action, and an order directing Matthew to publish a full retraction and apology in 5 national newspapers. He is also asking the court to compel the defendant to pin the apology on all social media platforms and online channels where the alleged defamatory statements were published for 30 days. The suit was filed by Gbajabiamila's legal team from Finero LP, led by Kemi Finero, with Folu Oguntade, Olukayode Enito, and Chukwudi Enebeli, who described the allegation as a press conference that a dispute arose after Gbajabiamila purportedly demanded a 48% kickback from the agency's 27.3 billion naira takeoff grant. He also claimed that 400 million naira had already been paid through a proxy, allegedly acting for the Chief of Staff, while an additional 200 million naira was required to secure presidential approvals. However, Gbajabiamila denied ever meeting or communicating with Matthew, authorizing anyone to act on his behalf.
The Court of Appeal, sitting in Abuja today, vacated the judgment that nullified the timelines of the Independent National Electoral Commission issued for the 2027 general elections. The appellate court, in a unanimous decision by a 3-member panel, upheld as meritorious an appeal the electoral body filed to challenge the judgment the Federal High Court delivered on the 20th of May. According to the appellate court, the trial court failed to follow binding precedents, adding that the revised timetable the INEC issued for the general elections is legally considered subsidiary legislation to the 2026 Electoral Act. It's held that such subsidiary legislation has the same force of law as the Electoral Act, adding that the INEC acted within its statutory powers, the appellate court maintained that every deadline in the revised timetable for the 2027 general elections fell within the ambit of the Electoral Act. INEC had, in its notice of appeal, dated the 25th of May, raised 9 grounds it urged the appellate court to consider and vacate the High Court judgment.
The Federal High Court in Abuja will on Friday deliver judgment in a suit filed by Senator Adolphus Wabara-led Board of Trustees (BOT) of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), loyal to the leadership of Mr. Kabir Turaki (SAN). The judgment, which is before Justice Salim Ibrahim, will be delivered at 4 p.m. Reports say the hearing notices have been sent to parties in the leadership crisis suit. Justice Ibrahim had on July 7th reserved judgment in the matter after counsel to the parties adopted their processes and presented their arguments for and against the suit. The judge had said that the judgment date would be communicated to the parties 24 hours in advance. It was gathered that members of the Wabara-led BOT had filed the fresh suit. They are seeking an order of the court compelling the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to recognize the PDP Interim National Working Committee's faction led by Turaki on its official website.
This broadcast of Newscope comes to you from the Broadcasting Corporation of Oluyole State, Ibadan. A Federal Capital Territory High Court in Akpo, Abuja, today ordered the final forfeiture of assets worth about 8.9 billion naira linked to businesswoman Aisha Chimugu to the federal government. The forfeited assets include jewelry valued at 4.65 billion naira, 11 exotic vehicles worth 4.29 billion naira, $50,000 and 30 million naira in cash. Justice Jude Onwubuzie made the order while delivering judgment on an application filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) seeking the final forfeiture of the assets. The EFCC had urged the court to permanently forfeit the properties to the federal government, arguing that they were linked to unlawful activities. The court granted the commission's application and ordered that the jewelry, vehicles and cash be finally forfeited to the federal government.
Access to justice is a fundamental right, yet for many residents of rural communities, timely legal assistance and dispute resolution remain a challenge. Justices of peace are helping to bridge this gap by promoting peace, resolving minor disputes and bringing justice closer to the grassroots. In this report, Oluyole examines the role of justices of the peace in strengthening peace building, conflict resolution, and access to justice in rural communities.
Justices of the peace are men and women of proven integrity, appointed by the state government through the Ministry of Justice to serve as community representatives in promoting justice, fairness, and peaceful coexistence. Speaking with BCOS News, a Justice of the Peace and Peace Ambassador, Ambassador Rachel Oyedemi, explained that the appointment is not merely honorary, but carries the responsibility of safeguarding citizens' rights, promoting equity, and resolving minor disputes within communities. According to her, justices of the peace regularly mediate family, market, and neighborhood disputes, intervene in emerging conflicts, and encourage
justice of the peace. When we talk of them, they are to promote and protect the rights of the individuals around them or wherever they find themselves. It may be in the marketplace. It may be wherever, in the hospital, in the schools, in any community, a person that acts with equity and fairness, because that is what the government wants. A JP is conferred with quasi-judicial powers to deal with and address minor issues and small claims in the or within the community.
Also speaking, another justice of the peace, Pastor Tunde Ajayi, explained that although JPs are not magistrates, they are legally empowered to perform certain official duties and intervene in situations capable of disrupting public peace before referring such matters to the appropriate authorities. He noted that their intervention improves access to justice by helping community members resolve disputes quickly and amicably, thereby reducing the cost and delays associated with litigation. Cases beyond their jurisdiction, he added, are referred to the court or other relevant agencies.
The law recognizes justices of the peace in Nigeria, particularly in Oyo State. The law recognizes their existence. They are also entitled to sign certain documents. Take, for example, some affidavits. They can sign them as well. They have their stamps. They also have the power to arrest. If there is a fracas, for example, and people are, that will eventually lead to the disturbance of the peace of the society. If somebody or people are fighting over a parcel of land, for example, and they can't agree, they can move the matter to the JP. He will call both sides or whatever the parties are, then talk to them, try to see how he can resolve such a dispute.
While acknowledging the public awareness of the institution is still limited, the justices of the peace urge Nigerians to make use of their services whenever necessary. While acknowledging that public awareness of the institution is still limited, the justices of the peace urge Nigerians to make use of their services whenever necessary. They also want members of the public to be wary of impostors who falsely claim to be justices of the peace for personal financial gain. Stakeholders believe that increased public awareness and greater support for the activities of justices of the peace will strengthen grassroots justice delivery, reduce community conflict, and foster lasting peace, particularly in rural.
The delegation representing the General Overseer of the RCCG informed the BCOS management about the church's forthcoming 74th annual convention themed Mountain Movers and sought the corporation's continued support in publicizing the event. The regional pastor in charge of RCCG Region 21, Pastor Goke Kuti, said the delegation also used the opportunity to appreciate God for the safe release of the recently adopted victims in Oyo State and to offer prayers for lasting peace, security, and progress in the state and the nation. He noted that the church highly values the decades-long partnership with BCOS and expressed confidence that the existing collaboration would further enhance awareness and participation in the forthcoming annual convention.
The courtesy visit is necessitated by our forthcoming Convention of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, the 74th annual convention with the team Mountain Movers. We have been in partnership with BCOS for decades, and we believe that our visit will give us opportunity to be able to inform the management of this organization that our rebate, that so that many of our parishes and our provinces will be able to come and do advertisement within the organization, and also to convey our Daddy Gio's appreciation to God for a prophecy fulfilled concerning the release of the Orire kidnapped victims that were released.
Responding, the executive chairman of BCOS, Chief Mrs. Dotun Olaiton, represented by the general manager, Mrs. Taiwo Adebowale, thanked the delegation for the visit and reaffirmed the corporation's readiness to continue partnering with organizations whose programs promote peace, unity, moral values, and sustainable societal development.
Prayer is the master key. Prayer is the only solution, and specifically, we need prayer here, and you must pray for us.
Highlights of the visit included special prayers for the management and staff of BCOS, the government and people of Oyo State and Nigeria, as well as the presentation of souvenir on behalf of the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God to the management of the corporation. Abimbola Ashawande, BCS News.
On the foreign scene, hundreds of people had gathered near the Ivan Franko National Theatre in central Kyiv to protest against the dismissal of Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov as Parliament approved a new Prime Minister amid a controversial cabinet reshuffle. According to the local media reports, protests also took place in several other cities today, including Lviv, Odessa, and Piro, while in Kyiv, protesters chanted shame and carried placards reading, "The Russians are celebrating." Writing on X, Fedorov said it had been a great honor to serve the Ukrainian people as the Minister of Defense before outlining what he described as the ministry's key achievements during his tenure, including disabling Starlink access for Russian forces and launching programs to expand Ukraine's domestic drone production amid the ongoing war with Moscow. The 35-year-old technology specialist, who previously served as Ukraine's first minister for digital transformation, has been credited with streamlining bureaucracy and introducing a more data-driven approach to the war against Russia. Supporters say his efforts to reform defense procurement and tackle corruption won him enemies within parts of the political and military establishment. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Zelensky said he wanted the Ministry of Defense and military leadership to work with greater unity, appearing to acknowledge reports of tension between Fedorov and other officials.
To end this edition of Newscope, here again are the top stories. Vice President Kashim Shettima said Nigeria has no reason to remain poor, stressing that the country's abundant natural resources and economic potential could make it one of the richest nations in the world if properly harnessed.
The Oyo State government has said the 2 surveillance aircraft procured to strengthen security operations across the state will arrive before the end of July after delays caused by the manufacturing and assembly process in China.
The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja today vacated the judgment that nullified the timelines of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) issued for the 2027 general elections.
Hundreds of people have gathered near the Ivan Franko National Theatre in central Kyiv to protest against the dismissal of Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov as Parliament approved a new Prime Minister amid a controversial cabinet reshuffle.
Now, before we go, dumping of waste in waterways aids flooding. Avoid unwarranted disasters. That's all from the Newscope desk for now. It was packaged by Oluyole Adedeji and delivered by
Adetuke Olaleye
and Idowu Shekoni. Thanks for listening, and do not forget to tune in for the Yoruba version at 8 p.m. Good evening.
Best in news, sports and entertainment. We got everything you need